Yeah, so I'd had a private practice, and at one point I thought I was going to retire, and so I sold my house. I put the money from my inheritance in my house and all my savings. I invested in the stock market. I thought I had studied well and done all the research, and I went on a little trip. I put all my things in storage, and I was on a trip trying to figure out where I wanted to move to next, to kind of what I thought would be retire. And I was up in the mountains, which I love, and I came out of the mountains and I realized or discovered that everything in the stock market it was one of those scams, and I lost absolutely everything. And luckily, I had my camping stuff with me. So I was in Colorado, up in the mountains, trying to figure out what to do next. And then I discovered that everything I owned in storage was stolen.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I forgot about that part of the story. This is crazy.
Yeah. So here I was. I had no money. Almost everything I owned was stolen. And I was living in massive pain. And so it was like, I don't want to do that. I was just floored. I didn't know what to do. So I spent weeks crying and not knowing how to survive even. Living in my little tent up in the wilderness. It was pretty terrifying.
I would imagine so.
And yeah, I was scrounging around in dumpsters for food, and I would take a shower or do like a sponge bath in the laundromat. It's not anything I had thought I would have to live through, for sure. So one day I was ready to kill myself. I just couldn't deal with any longer. And that morning I got up and this message came screaming from my guts, choose gratitude. And I thought, choose gratitude? What's that about? And so my mind, there was like this inner war between choosing gratitude and wanting to kill myself. So finally I said, okay, I'll choose gratitude for 3 months. I'll be totally committed to it. If it doesn't work, I'm going to kill myself. That was the deal.
Seems like a pretty good, I guess, plea bargain or rationalization at that point at literally rock bottom.
Yeah, it was rock bottom. And so it was like, okay, I give thanks for my tent. I give thanks for the pain. I give thanks for having a bite of food today. And I just started this really radical gratitude practice.
And how old were you at this point?
I was 60.
Oh my God. People, listen to this story. When you're
wallowing
in your self-pity. I'm listening to myself. So go on.
Yeah.
60.
I mean, at 60, I thought I was going to retire and have this nice little life. I was set up for it. And that was not the plan. So I kept doing this gratitude practice, and I'd had this shocking pain in the back of my neck. It was kind of like a zapping cattle prod, like this electric something that zapped me the whole time for 60 years. So I started giving thanks to the pain in my neck. So I'd give thanks because the pain was very sharp. And I'd say, thank you for the sharp pain. And then the pain would get dull. And I'd say, thank you for the dull pain. And then the pain would change. And the more I thanked it, the more the pain kept changing. And so this pain that I'd had my whole life started dissolving. And I thought, this is interesting. So the whole time I'm taking notes, and I can see what's going on. And I can see the way the gratitude is moving around the pain in the back of my neck. So there's the part of my brain that was really curious. And so every day I'm writing notes, writing down information about how all this works. And I started feeling better and better and better.
But first I wanted to ask you, what do you think was the mechanism of gratitude that dulled that pain and took you out of that place? Because it takes a very strong person to be right on the edge of checking out and then be like, all right, it's like a scientist. I'm going to try this and see if it works. No real scientific method, really just proof in the external world. So what do you think is that mechanism that alters A, your pain, and B, we could say reality?
So gratitude's a very high frequency. Pain and radiation and distress are very low frequencies. So as we bring in a high frequency, what it does is it breaks up the low frequencies. And the pain in my body had been there for 60 years. So it was the process was longer than it would have been in most people. Mm-hmm. But I just started giving thanks. And as I gave thanks, I could see this low frequency coming to a higher frequency.
But when you are at the absolute bottom, how do you give thanks when you can't see a path forward?
You just give thanks for being at the bottom.
Okay. And
you give thanks for not seeing the path. You give thanks for it being so horrible. You give thanks for it being so fucking painful.
Yeah.
You give thanks for how horrible it is.
And
which is
go ahead.
So I noticed a lot of people give thanks for the good stuff. Mm-hmm. This practice is about giving thanks for the bad stuff.
Yeah.
And at times it was really difficult for me to give thanks to the radiation. It was just like that was the hardest thing. So I have this great little story. One day I was, a few of my things remained in storage and I finally got them. But one thing I didn't get was my silverware, and it was from my grandmother, and I was really painful that I didn't have my beautiful silverware. And so I had this little fork that I'd gotten at the thrift store, it was kind of all bent up and crappy. And I'm looking at this fork going, thanks for stealing my fork. And I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, thank you. Absolutely no gratitude present at all.
Because you weren't connected to your heart, right?
No, I was just pissed, but I was committed to gratitude. So
and gratitude is not a mental thing. It is a frequency thing that emanates out of your heart, correct?
You got it. So I just kept going, thanks for stealing my fork. And then I could take a deep breath. I was like, oh. And I go, thanks for stealing my fork. And then the energy started shifting a bit. And then I went, oh, thank you for stealing my fork. And I could feel the pain and anguish going from my feet into the earth. And then I went, thank you for stealing my fork. And then I realized that the fork was filled with radiation.
Wow.
It was from my grandmother, but it had been my mother's. It had been in our family home. And so all the silver and all my jewelry, which has been in the family, was all filled with radiation. And it was like, oh, thank you for stealing my fork. I'm not shoving radiation in my mouth with every bite.
That's incredible.
It was just an amazing thing. And then I went, oh my. I was thinking of whoever had stolen my silverware going, oh, I just need to send them some love, hoping that they aren't eating with it all the time and getting the radiation in them.